Imanga, MP for Nalolo constituency. Honorable, thank you so much and for waking up early. I know the House started sitting last week on Friday when the President officially opened. And that's the reason why we are this early here. How is Nalolo constituency?
Thank you, Pausent, for having me on this very important program. Nalolo constituency is doing well. I was there just before, a few days before the presidential address.
Yeah. I know you are very passionate about issues to do with the environment. No wonder you are a co-chair of the caucus here at Parliament. How is the caucus doing?
Well, the caucus is doing fine. We have a lot of activities that we've undertaken in this 13th session of the National Assembly. However, you know, we are from recess, so people are settling. But obviously, you know, just before we opened, we did have a statement come from the caucus on issues to do with, you know, sustainability and ecosystems on the Kafue River, considering the heightened debate on the Sino pollution. So we did give a position as a caucus that perhaps we need to also, as parliamentarians, take legislative action in protecting you know, our environmental key ecosystems, the rivers and so forth.
All right, thank you so much. And my next guest is Mr. John Kangombe, who is a program lead from Ikea Foundation. Thank you so much, Mr. Kangombe, and a pleasure to have you this morning. How is Ikea doing?
First and foremost, thank you so much for the invitation. The Ikea Foundation is doing very well. We're excited to see what is to come in the near future, the declarations that were made, very ambitious. We hope that the implementation will be as smooth as the past years have been.
Okay. Well, what is your organization all about, Ikea Foundation, for the sake of our viewers and our listeners out there?
So the Ikea Foundation is a youth-led organization that was started with the aim to localize the sustainable development goals, using local communities and the youth as the driving force. Currently implementing 3 key programs that align very well with what the President declared at the 13th parliamentary opening. One being the Green Up Zambia campaign, where we're planting 20 million trees, 12.5 that are going to households free of charge in partnership with corporations, and another 5 million going into open spaces, community forests, and another 2.5 million trees going into schools across the country.
When are you donating to the National Assembly of Zambia? I know members of Parliament would love to plant those trees in their various constituencies. I know, Right Honourable Madam Speaker, she is a champion and the ambassador of tree planting, and there is a campaign going on and where members of Parliament have been urged or advised to plant trees in their constituencies.
So obviously, we're hoping that could be done as soon as possible, but everything comes with procedure. We have written to the parliamentarians, hoping that they accept. If we can get 1,000 for each parliamentarian, including Honorable Wamunyuma here, I think it would be a very great thing to do if each parliamentarian, by end of 2026, at the election of 2026, they can declare that they planted 1,000 trees in their constituent, and not only any trees, but fruit trees, because of the sustainable impact that fruit trees have in the long term, both socially and economically, as that comes with planting trees.
All right, this is the post-analysis of the presidential address during the official opening of the 5th session of the 13th Assembly. We know that the President was here last week on Friday, and today we want to look at the environmental sustainability. And I keep reminding you, if you have a soft copy of that address or a hard copy, you can go to page 50. This is where we are today. And my sign language interpreter this morning is Chola Kauma. The number that we are using, if you wish to be part and parcel of this interactive program, is 0978 772801. 0978 772801. Better still, the National Assembly of Zambia. Like that page and let me know where you are watching us from, and you can also send your question or contribution. Now, Honorable Wamunyuma, the President was here last week on Friday. How do you make of the President's address vis-a-vis the environmental sustainability?
Well, first of all, I think it's very important to state that the president did touch on issues to do with environmental sustainability. What is important, I think, should be to recognize the environmental awareness at that level. Because when you look at aspects of the country emerging from El Nino drought into, unprecedented drought into now, bumper harvest, we don't only expect that his pronouncements on issues to do with the environment would end climate issues and environmental issues have not been sufficiently mainstreamed beyond beyond the top high level pronouncement. So I think what I would make of his pronouncements is that it was very heartwarming to see that at that we have awareness on issues to do with environment. And it's good to mention that the introduction under his leadership of the green economy and Ministry of Green Economy and Environment shows that he has that commitment to issues to do with environment. We recently passed the Green Economy Bill and some great strides.
Okay. All right, Mr. Kangombe, you are coming from an organization which is youth-led, and how did the youth receive the presidential address vis-a-vis the environmental sustainability?
I think that for starters, it's very important to highlight that it's good to know that the government is listening to our cries. In 2023, when we did a march past in partnership with Youth Volunteer for Environment, we asked the president to declare the climate crisis, which he did. So to have him speak on environmental sustainability at the last, the 13th opening, it goes to show that we are not speaking on deaf ears, for starters. Two, the steps being put in place by government, like Honorable Wamanyuma has just said, the acting of the Green Economy Bill with regards to carbon credits, afforestation, among others, goes to show that the government is making a deliberate action around this environmental and climate crisis that we're experiencing as a country. So as young people, we're excited to see what the future holds. I keep emphasizing that. But more so, we want to see the implementation of these declarations being made, that were made by the president, as well as being part of, because youth participation is very important as a driving force towards any form of implementation or development in this space. We have seen in other spaces where the youth have felt excluded, but we're excited to say that I think when we have echoed out a cry, the government has heard, as speaking obviously not for all the youth, but speaking as a non-profit organization. We're excited to see what the future holds.
Okay. In your preamble, you did talk about what your organization is doing, and in partnership with various organizations where you are donating trees to various stakeholders. And if I go to page 51 of the President's address last week on Friday, the President did say that government has continued to implement afforestation programs to enhance the conservation of forests and the environment. Since 2021, a total of 10.3 million hectares of forest across the country are being sustainably cultivated, with 360 groups. These groups are being supported with alternative livelihoods to reduce pressure on forest resources. Your comment on that? Maybe, Honorable, would you want to start on that one? Or we'll allow John to, before the Honorable comes in? Because you are the one who talked about the partnership that you have with various stakeholders in making sure that the trees are planted. And the President is talking about the issue to do with afforestation, where a total of 10.3 million hectares of forests across the country are being sustainably co-managed.
Okay, thank you for that question. We must first understand that in 2020, the country reported, or the United Nations reported, that we're losing about 175,000 hectares of forest to deforestation, which is charcoal burning and unregulated timber logging. So to see that we have 10 million hectares being managed is a good sign. But more so, Zambia we're a country with over 765,000 kilometers of land. So if you're losing 175,000 hectares annually to deforestation, 10 million is a good start, and we're hoping that with these deliberate actions, we can actually increase the forest management. We had obviously a debate with Forest 27, which we're very excited to see that through the regional development plan in partnership with JICA, Lusaka City Council, is putting a stop to the development of infrastructure in Forest 27, very controversial forest. We also saw the general public, including stakeholders such as the Ikea Foundation, stand firm at stopping the mining in the Lower Zambezi, which is one of the national forests that not only keeps our ecosystem, but also is a great carbon sink. So to have 365, I think,
yes.
People, organizations running point on this is a good start, but I think we need more stakeholders coming on board. 10 million is a good number, but I think we should get to 20 million. What we're doing as the Ikea Foundation with the Green Up Zambia campaign is to plant 20 million trees, which translates to only 50,000 hectares, because that's a very small number. So what we need collectively as a people is knowledge sharing, to make sure that even as we are pushing for forest management, people need to understand that these forests can actually be used as economic sectors through things like beekeeping, forest fruit harvesting. Zambia currently does not export any of our indigenous fruits. We do not process any of our indigenous fruits. So to see that 10 million hectares is being managed, we want to see more of that going on to mainstream retail stores. We want to see munkoyo made in ShopRite. We see it in ShopRite. We want to see mukuyu or baobab drinks in retails, not only in Zambia but across Africa.
Okay, let me bring in the Honorable Member of Parliament for Nalolo, who's also chairperson of National Assembly. How do you make of the President's address regarding what I just read out, what I got from his speech?
Yes, I just to buttress his point, President, the deforestation rate in the country has been disastrous. First of all, he talked about 175,000 in 2020, but from 2011 to about 2019, our annual deforestation rate was 300,000 hectares annually. What was being reported, for example, timber, mukula, so what was being reported as exports to other countries was not matching with what we were accounting for as a country. So for me, that's really a breath of fresh air to have 10 million hectares being manned. And you see, Paulson, just a few weeks ago I was in Bonn, Germany, for the global changemaker academy, and the issue of Zambia's deforestation was part of the case studies and of what is the collective action at executive and legislative level. And I'm glad that the President has promulgated that action at executive level. And when you look at deforestation in terms of our historic deforestation, it's been a governance issue. From the Forest Department being understaffed to the Home Affairs under the Police Department not playing their role, which is there in the Forestry Act, that in the absence of forest officers, the police, can be in the line of defense to stop, unregulated, cutting of trees. But I'm very happy that, the president at his level, is aware that it is very critical that we secure. And I would agree with Mr. Kangombe here that we should move from 10 million hectares to about 20 to recover, the years of lost trees. But 10 million is a good start and shows commitment, national commitment.
All right, the number that will be part and parcel of today's post-analysis of the presidential address during the official opening of the 5th session of the 13th Assembly is 0978772801. Let me go to my Facebook page and just acknowledge the people that are with us following on our page. We do have Mr. Elijah, and you're watching with us. In Northwestern Province. I also have wow, Earth Television is with us, and if we are planting these trees, let us know why we are planting them. Very important comment there, because it's not just a matter of planting trees, but on fruit tree, and you highlighted some of the benefits. So shortly we'll be able to read your text message 801. Now you can also send in your text message or via our Facebook page, the National Assembly of Zambia. Now, Ms. Imanga, what measures do you believe the government should take to ensure that the benefits of sustainable development are equitably distributed among all communities in our country?
Well, you see, one of the measures we need to take is to decentralize the conversation to local governance level. It is too top heavy. It's the members of parliament talking about sustainable development, because it's the civil society here in Lusaka. But what is the conversation in Nakonde about sustainable development? Because what is the conversation in Kanchibia? What is the conversation in Nalolo? So I think for us to achieve the equitable, distribution, we must also, in the same way we have done physical decentralization through CDF, we must take the conversation to the grassroots, and it must be on a broader scale. It must be the legislators spearheading, SDG on quality. So for me, that's one of the critical steps.
Okay.
And also, to be very honest, the conversation of SDGs is not a very common conversation around our communities. If you've gone around, some people even wonder, what are you talking about? Vision 2030 SDGs. They sound so technical, but I think we must also find a way of information sharing, and it would be good that through the media we promote a deliberate conversation on SDGs. Just look at this program. It may be one of the few that very critical to the development cycle of a country, but may attract less interest to the people because they may not understand. So I think there is need to have a spread out on this information.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Kangombe, what do you believe the government should take to ensure that the benefits of sustainable development are equitably distributed among communities in Nalolo, in Vubwi, in Katete, go to Western Province, Northwestern, and Wapula Province?
So, for starters, I'll echo what he said. Equity must be community-owned to start with. Sustainable development is a very foreign language to anyone who's not been to university. who's not past a certain level of education. So it, in so much as these are supposed to be every woman's agendas, because they benefit individuals, to benefit them in the long term, right? To start with, the definition of sustainability is to use our resources so well that people that come after us have enough to use. So what we need is community ownership. There's marginalized communities, not only in the rural areas, but also in Lusaka, that do not understand what these global goals are. So what we need is to echo out advocacy. We need more advocacy. We need to close the gap between the everyman and the technicalities. We need to get rid of the jargon. We need more interventions, more policy change. Honorable community through CDF, educate everyone through media, like what we're doing now. We need to get, like what we did with COVID 2020. Everyone was using eucalyptus leaves. It was now I think every household has ginger because of that effect, because it was an outcry, a media outcry. We need the media to not only speak sustainable development when experts like myself or the honorable are sitting, but needs to speak sustainability. Like we always start, when you start the TV news, you say one Zambia, one nation, right? Sustainable development goals are our key focal point to developing the country into what we want to develop as. I understand the NDPs, the National Development Plan, is to develop the country. But without the sustainable aspect of development, we will find ourselves developing or depleting our natural resources, developing without the everyman understanding why they're developing.
What is the ICO doing? The Honorable Member of Parliament for Nalolo did bring out a very important aspect. Environmental issues are too technical. He did talk about issues to do with the SDGs. Very few people know about SDGs. If you look behind me, there are SDGs, and it's something that we've been talking about as Parliament television. But what is ICO doing to make sure that people appreciate SDG number 14, which is climate action? It trickles down to young people out there, even just the majority of Zambia's populace.
Thank you for that question. So in partnership with organizations like the Youth Volunteer for Environment, we have, under the Green Schools, we have a program called the Green Schools Program, under the Green Up Zambia campaign, where we're going into schools to basically not educate, to interact with young people. Because I think to learn something, we must get rid of the technicalities, like we have said, right? We must get rid of the jargon. So we're going into schools, where we're setting up school orchards, for starters, as a deliberate action, because fruit trees are one way to eradicate hunger in the long term. But we're going into the schools more so to educate and interact with young people on what they can do, even if they don't know what SDG number 5 is, gender equality, or what SDG number 7, affordable and clean energy is. They must be able to, it must be inculcated in them to say, when I leave a space like this, I need to turn off the lights. Or when I'm brushing my teeth, if I have running water, I need to close the tap. Those are the lessons that we're having with young people in schools. And we're not only doing it in Lusaka, we're doing it in Kafue. Just last week, in partnership with IHS Towers of Strength, we were doing a tree planting at Kanyanja Community School. And educating them on what deliberate steps they should take as young people. But like he said, there is need for us to go into rural Zambia, because sustainable development goals are not a new thing. Sustainability is not a new thing. It's actually part of our culture as a people. When you go to Western Province, I think it's Kashembe, where there's a strip of about 10 kilometers of mangoes that were planted. That is what sustainable development is. There's there's a culture in Batoka when you get masuku, which is a very famous fruit in southern province. It is not allowed to pluck a masuku from a tree. You need to get it from the ground when it's ripe. So already sustainable development is something that is part of our culture. It's not a new thing, but because we wrap it around a lot of jargon, it sounds like this is something for, you know, the top.
Let's get to our SMS facility. Before we do that, let me acknowledge the people that are following us on our social media, the National Assembly of Zambia. But you can also follow us on our YouTube channel there. Aaron Sikaonga, you are watching from Mpika. Thank you so much. Nosh Milimo, you're watching from Waterfalls right here in Lusaka City. Kelvin Sichambe from Chongwe, and you're saying you're following and enjoying the program. And Benson Musaka, you're right, saying following the program keenly. Love how Mr. Imanga Wamunyima articulates issues. He understands his role as well as in environmental sustainability. My regards to Mr. Kangombe as well. He is an excellent young man who understands the goal for his foundation, who love to be part of the tree planting as well. My contact is even left contact, so you have a potential client there. Samanga, would you want to comment on what Mr. Kangombe has highlighted, and also maybe comment on one of the text messages that have come through?
Well, first of all, just to say thank you to the to the messages of encouragement from people following us, you know, online, and also just to buttress what Mr. Kangombe has put out. You know, the issue of climate and sustainability, once it gets to be community driven, then it is done, because, you know, people take ownership, and that is why, for me, I have, as a member of parliament, began this conversation with the constituents, and it's interesting to appreciate, you know, their views, because when you begin engaging them, for example, on the need to have, you know, a clean Nalolo. You know, our town council, Nalolo Town Council, is doing a very commendable job in at least every fortnight they are cleaning publicly, whether it's at the market, whether it's at a public facility, and have actually, you know, been assigned a designated dump site.
Okay.
So people now understand you can't just have a dump site behind your house. You know, that should be, we must migrate from that. And you know, even the issues to do with environmental sustainability must be mainstreamed in the Constituency Development Fund. Remember, we do community projects. The council does the community projects. We provide oversight. This 1x3 classroom is built. 4 months later, it's blown off. Did the engineer consider issues of climate and environment? You know, when he was doing, you know, the planning for this. And this is where now issues of sustainability, like I'm saying, must be mainstreamed.
Okay.
And must be decentralized, must be localized. The councils who are with the people must drive them. We have environmental officers at the council, and are they ensuring that this is a conversation for all departments?
Let's see who we have in terms of the text messages. The number that we're using is 0978-772801. Remember, this is the post-analysis of the presidential address. We know that the president was here last week on Friday, the 12th of September, and he did touch on a number of issues in terms of projecting what government intends to do in the year 2026, and also giving an account of some of the achievements that the New Dawn government has achieved from the time they assumed office in 2021. And today We want to restrict ourselves to the environmental sustainability. My two guests on today's program, I do have Mr. Wamunyima Imanga, Member of Parliament for Nalolo constituency, also Kangombe, program lead Ikea Foundation right here in Lusaka City. Let's see the text messages that we've received this far. From John Chitala from Lumezi in Eastern Province. We love the presidential address, and he talked about a lot of in Zambia, tree planting areas, but rampant deforestation is not reducing in Zambia, especially in rural areas due to charcoal burning, timber production, and tobacco farming. Put these bad vices. Thank you so much for your text message, Manzi John. And the topic is very critical and educative. However, one aspect being omitted is what drives the deforestation. One, poverty levels. A poor common man can't afford a stove of any kind, too expensive. Two, such organizations don't reach out here. And three, organizers are town failures. Thank you so much for that text message. I'm sure my able panelists will be able to respond. What measures are government taking or putting in place to stop the cutting down of trees? Thank you so much for that text message. The other one is, this is Simwamba Matthews from Kasama, Northern Province. The program is very essential. Go ahead on educating us about planting trees. Thank you so much for those kudos, and I'm sure my producers are listening and taking note of those concerns. I'm sure, John, before I bring in Mr. Imanga to comment on those text messages, your quick reaction.
First and foremost, thank you very much to the viewers that are watching and those listening, and both on Facebook and on radio. I think, for starters, it's not just about planting trees. It's about planting trees so they can survive and grow, right? There has been an indiscriminate cutting of trees because obviously there's no proper policy in place to help mitigate the tree planting. But we must highlight one thing that one of the people said, is that there's poverty and there's survivability. When you're poor, you need to survive. There are those that do not have access to stoves. But you must know this, is that people in rural areas do not actually use the charcoal that is causing deforestation. It is the town people that are actually using this charcoal. So there has been a deliberate action. I'm going to speak for Lusaka regards to municipality where Her Worship the Mayor has forcefully advocated for LPGs, all right, and other forms, alternatives to charcoal. I know USAID has pushed financing around going alternatives to charcoal, but however, there has been a knowledge gap between, is a gas stove safe enough for you to use if you want to go alternative? One, do briquettes, the briquette technology that has been introduced, is it as efficient as charcoal? So until we narrow down the knowledge gap between the user, the charcoal user, and the information on the ground, there's going to be that issue. But we must also remember that there is Mr. Banda who needs to survive by cutting down trees. This is his livelihood. So how do we make sure that Mr. Banda will survive when we put these deliberate laws that say lock up Mr. Banda so that he cannot feed his children through the charcoal business is doing? What alternatives is government bringing to the table to make sure that Mr. Banda and several other charcoal burners are safeguarded? We the non-profit organizations can only do so much in the advocacy of stop cutting down trees because of ABC. But we have Honorable Imanga here. Are you knocking on their doors to make sure that they pass legislature that will curb all these vices that our viewers and our listeners are talking about? Because I'm sure there are brilliant ideas that can come from the civil society, non-profit organization, to push in certain laws that will curb and reverse the effect of climate change. So for starters, I think we must understand that there's legislature, then there's the implementation of legislature. These are two different things. You might want to say, let's stop doing this, but do we have the enforcement to actually implement efficiently and effectively? And even when we are implementing them effectively, are we trying to punish our citizens, or are we trying to improve the lives of our citizens? So what steps can we put stakeholders together to make sure that from the charcoal business is not disadvantaged economically, socially, past them stopping to cut down trees? And that is a debate that has happened over the years.
Okay.
How do we cut down, how do we reduce charcoal burners? Do we introduce alternative social and economic things to them? What are these things that we can introduce? Beehive keeping, is that sustainable? And I'll tell you one thing, yes it is.
Okay.
One tree will generate you, one tree of beekeeping will generate you about 8 to 1,000 kwacha per year. Well, you cut down one tree that has lived for 50 years, you will make 500 kwacha. But that is information that is not known by the charcoal burner.
Let's bring in the Honorable Member of Parliament. Your quick comment before I bring in another set of SMSs.
Well, there are very interesting comments from the citizen, and I'd like to appreciate how unfiltered they are. You know, the citizens are saying it as it is. Poverty, as ugly as it is a great contributor to deforestation, and that is why empowerment programs at district level seek to uplift people from poverty. Giving people loans and CDF grants is for them to do alternative businesses apart from charcoal burning.
Okay.
And it's been very impactful at district level, these empowerment programs, but I'd like to state that also, like I'm saying, the conversation on sustainability, environment and climate has not been given the seriousness it deserves at the grassroots level, and we not fault the people at grassroots level, at district level, but we need to continue talking about it. We need to talk. Like, I would like to agree what you said. Like in my constituency, I have trees that it took 100 years for a tree to grow. Then this community is first tree for 20 kwacha. I mean, I became quite quite resistant to a lot of cutting of timber in a certain area where, as MP, I could impound some vehicles with help of the police, but you could see the community could not understand. So I tell them, I mean, your great grandparents left this tree, and if you cut this tree, you will not be here to see it grow. So I think it's a process to get there's sufficient political will to give the conversation some impetus, practicability.
Let me get back to the Republican President's speech last week on Friday on environmental sustainability. The President did say that sustainable development continues to be the guiding principle in our quest for socio-economic development. He further said that the government is harnessing renewable energy, promoting sustainable agriculture, protecting the biodiversity, and fostering social equity. What do you make of that comment? Maybe let me start with Honorable Imenga.
Yes. Also in his address, he talked about early warning systems, weather systems being in place and being improved. Now, we cannot have sustainable agriculture, especially if we rely on farming that is irrigation driven. So it is a good thing that now farmers are able to plan because of the early warning systems. They are able to know that we will have early rainfall or we will have late rainfall. That also gives an opportunity for commercial farmers to make a decision as to whether to invest more in irrigation so as to have sustainable agriculture. And I'm happy he mentioned sustainable agriculture. Zambia has been struggling with sustainable agriculture. Agriculture in Zambia is seasonal. No rain, no food. Less rain, less food. More rain, more food. And I think sustainability seeks to migrate from just having food when you have rain. So it's also a message to even small-scale farmers that investing in small irrigation systems to ensure that we can have sufficient food security. Food security in this country has been a challenge because of lack of climate-smart, unsustainable agriculture practices.
Mr. Kangombe, quick reaction to the President's sentiments in his address regarding environmental sustainability.
For starters, I hope that the solar energy plant that will be installed will help eradicate the need for people to use charcoal, because with that in place, we know that the deforestation will reduce by maybe like 5%. But just to echo what the Honorable has said, there is need for a lot of advocacy on what smart agriculture is, what afforestation. Because I promise you this, if you go to a farmer who's actually a commercial about agroforestry, he will not know what it is. So there's need to raise the community, the subsistence farmer, because we must remember that in 2007, I think this is Mwanawasa era, we were fed by the subsistence farmer. Actually, Zambia is fed more on the subsistence farmer than we are fed by the commercial farmer. The commercial farmer exports for our GDP to increase our GDP. So for us to have food security, we must make sure that our subsistence farmer, our Mr. Zulu, is able to grow a hectare and harvest 60 bags. We are excited to see that early warning sign systems have been put in place. The problem of the solution. How do we empower them during the drought season? Do we deliberately through CDF introduce a cheap borehole system for the subsistence farmer so that they can push towards agriculture? Do of agriculture the trees because that also helps improve the soil composition.
Is investing in systems, but we'll get to that. Let's see text messages on 0978 772801. Better still, also be acknowledging those of you that are following us on our social media, the National City of Zambia. Let's see on our screens who has sent the text messages. All right, this one reads, indeed it's time we started looking at environmental management critically. The government should be deliberate and provide incentives for environmental protection. One vehicle that government can use is FISIP. Ensure that every farmer on that program is actively involved in environmental management. Those who are not are removed from the program. Thank you so much. No name there. I would love to know where you're sending us your text message from. The topic is so interesting. So I think the government should put laws to curb these problems. Wilson Hampulula, I'm watching from Liteta in Central Province. Thank you so much for those two text messages. And you brought in the aspect to do with early warning. Page 50, in the President's address, he did say that the government has enhanced the country's early warning systems by constructing modern weather stations in all the districts and for all major water bodies. This has improved dissemination of weather information to our communities and farmers so they can plan and make informed decision. You can comment on what the President talked about, and also maybe if you wish to respond to those two text messages you've read. Honorable Imanga.
I'll not comment on early warning system because I commented, which I feel has come at the right time. We should have had early warning systems in each district 50 years ago, but it's commendable that we have that awareness now. I agree with one the interviewer. Yeah, we talked about FISIP. Now, you see, I have been an advocate of FISIP not being distributed as a one shoe fits all. You go to Western Province, Western Province is sandy. The terrain is sandy. They do not need the same chemical fertilizer being sent to Eastern Province. They need a biodegradable, climate-smart fertilizer. And I've been engaging with the Minister of Agriculture and the Minister of Green Economy to find a way, because you just say no urea, it's D-compound. I mean, is it climate smart to the terrain of Western Province? So these fertilizers being received by these recipients, there must be a component of environmental awareness of each FISIP beneficiary. Is the FISIP beneficiary really using that FISIP fertilizer, Farmer Input Support Program, or are they selling it? Because they're saying, no, this damages the soil, are we selling it? So I agree with that approach, because the degeneration of our soils is driven by subsistent and commercial farmers through bad agriculture practices. So it's a good point, and I think as a lawmaker, I agree. Maybe we should really heighten the debate and see how that can be reduced to black and white.
Okay. Mr. Kangombe, your comment, those two text messages that we received, and we can also couple it up with what the President talked about, the investment that the New Dawn government has put in place regarding early warning systems.
For starters, I think the early warning systems that have been put in place are great of Zambia, and we're happy that the government has actually invested and is continuing to invest in them, because we implement smart agriculture. We have an opportunity for their resources, because not every farmer is a beneficiary of FISP. I think FISP is a 3-year plan. After 3 years, you're out of FISP. So it's a good place to start. To speak on what one of the viewers has highlighted, where we encourage farmers to actually be managers of the environment instead of just beneficiaries, is a very good deliberate step should the lawmakers put it in place. What are these farmers doing on their farms to make sure that, one, they're actually able to sequester carbon? Because this climate conversation really is just about the greenhouse gases and how they're affecting us, right? So what are we doing as a government to make sure that the farmers that are benefiting from FISP are implementing smart agriculture? Are we testing their soils to make sure that these soils remain usable long after 3 years, long after 10 years? Or are we leaving it to chance? What are we doing in place? That's one. Two, when we give farmers FISP, how is this FISP benefiting the government? I know there is a sale of 10 bags, which is a good deliberate move, because that safeguards our food security in the long term. But are these farmers practicing Chitemene system? Because if you go now, even if you just drive through Eastern Province Chongwe, or you go Mumbwa Road, there's been an indiscriminate burning of the environment. This is because I think it's burning season now. But you must realize that it's not just the grass you burn. You are killing the ecosystem when you burn. So what measures are we putting in place to make sure that even this indiscriminate burning is properly mitigated through organizations like ZEMA? Do we have the necessary manpower to make sure that the burning is not done indiscriminately? I have a colleague whose farm was burnt. So he wasn't part of the conversation, but his farm was burnt because he had grass. What other methods can we use other than the indiscriminate burning of grass during what we famously call burning season?
Oh, okay. All right. Let's get to our SMS facility. Remember, the number is 0978 772801. And let's see who has sent in a text message. We do have quite a number of people responding and contributing to this platform. All right. This one reads, we as citizens of Zambia, yes, we understand how serious it is to cut trees indiscriminately. Beekeeping is also vital, but can one cook with honey? No, you need to cook. The solution to me is sensitization, empowerment in terms of gas stoves and solar equipment. Thank you so much. I'm sure it's responding to your earlier comments. What is happening in Mumbwa, West Kafue, game careless tree cutting is too much. Thank you so much for your text message. Make sure that you include your name and your place, the place where you're sending your text message from. Trees have been removed along the roads, the roadsides, and built some business structures. What are your views on that? It's coming from Matero. Appreciate Matero for. I'm sure take note of that concern. The trees that are being cut down, more especially along the roadside, because of businesses. The Forest Department is one of the least funded departments. One, there are very few officers on ground, and they are not to have means to effectively monitor the forest reserves. Two, it seems the Forest Department depends on money from licensing charcoal burners and loggers for them to exist. For us to see meaningful change, let's see the government funding this department. Thank you so much for a text message. The matter on board can be well addressed by finding the alternative of using charcoal other than electricity, which is scarcity now, and the gas energy, which is not safe for use to the urban areas. That's George Justin Sinazongwe. Thank you so much, Justin, for a text message. A quick reaction, Honorable Imanga?
Yeah, thank you, Posent. Very interesting comments.
Maybe we can begin with the issue of cutting down trees along the main road. People want to build shops, so at least they can earn something at the end of the day, at the expense of the environment.
Yes, you see, Posent, when you travel outside the country and you go to countries that are taking the lead in being green cities, you'd accept that we have a crisis in the country. I remember when I was growing as a young boy, the area, Jacaranda area there, we had a lot of trees, with purple
Jacaranda trees.
Yes, yes, yes. The road all the way from where you have the State House. What road is that?
Independence. Yeah.
Wow, there were so many trees. So now getting back, the cutting of trees for commercial to build a shop, it's lack of enforcement of bylaws. This is at local governance level. You see, that is why I'll state that, the Forest Department in our councils needs to ensure that the Forest Act is implemented, because in other jurisdictions you need a permit to cut a tree. You can't just wake up and say, no, I'm cutting this tree. You need a permit. Other jurisdictions, a tree census is conducted. They know how many trees are in this reserve park. So I agree with him, and my comment as a lawmaker is that it's unfortunate it's not regulated. It needs to be regulated.
Okay.
And perhaps there is already a conversation on relooking the First Act to modernize it to the global trend.
Okay.
What do the global best practices. So I agree. It's.
Are we seeing any private members' motion during this session regarding environmental sustainability?
Not a motion. There might be a bill on the Forest Act. I'm aware that the Department of Forest at the Ministry of Green Economy has been undertaking a lot of stakeholder engagement. So hopefully a bill to tighten the controls. Especially, look, the other caller says the forest departments in the councils get funding from Chakobena.
Through license.
Yes, yes. It sounds funny, but actually that's the reality. So how do we convince, how do we convince ourselves as a country that we must put money in protecting the environment?
Mr. Kangombe, quick reaction, because we will have about less than 5 minutes to wind up.
Okay, so with regards to development, the road development, and the indiscriminate cutting down of trees in these areas, I believe that there is, in every road construction contract, there is a percentage to this, right? They inform, go on the ground and remove trees. Whatever tree you cut down, you must these trees being planted, which obviously the answer is we don't know, or the money is being misused somewhere else. So that is an issue with RDA. It is not an issue with council. It is with road development agency and how best they can implement or enforce that law. With regards to Zambia on the overall grand scheme of things, we must remember that Zambia has never had a tree census. So by law, whatever you cannot count, you cannot know is missing. So we do not know how many trees we had at the start of Zambia, northern Rhodesia, in 1964. What tree species we had, how many trees we had, the benefits of these trees. So what we're doing as the Ikea Foundation is we are developing a software, an app called the Tree Scan, where we're trying to collect a database of the tree species in the hope that the next 100 years, when we do the next tree census, hopefully through policy, we should know that Zambia has 1 trillion trees, and this is 10 years later we have so many trees left, because at this point we are speaking without knowing the total count of what's on the ground as a country. We can calculate hectareage of losses, but not tree species or system. Until we have a tree census, like we are doing with the land, to know what land belongs to government and what belongs to private and what is under customary, we cannot sufficiently say these are the number of trees we have, these are a tree species. And because of that, we cannot commercialize the conversation, because there's a lot of, like Mukula, we had a Mukula crisis not so long ago, and Mukula was being sold for 20 kwacha or 30 kwacha, but on the global scale, Mukula trees, what the AK-47 gun is made of, one of the components of the AK-47, the famous Rolls-Royce vehicle, the dashboard is refined by Mukula tree. So without that knowledge, it's a very difficult conversation to have.
Okay. All right. We've come to the end of today's post-analysis of the presidential address during the official opening of the 5th session of the 13th Assembly. Maybe as we conclude, under a minute, your concluding remarks regarding what the President talked about on the environmental sustainability.
As the Ikea Foundation, we're very much excited. I keep echoing this, because with what the President has echoed out around sustainability is that there's room for stakeholders to come on board. But also we're calling on the private sector, the corporations that are actually making money from the environment, to take a key step in their corporate social responsibility deliberately, to say we allocate 5% of our annual budget towards sustainability, not just through declaration, but this is where we've planted our trees, and this is how the trees are doing. Because it's not about tree planting, it's about tree planting so the trees survive. Or we have allocated resources towards empowering the charcoal burners away from the tree planting through either education, sensitization, or basically creation of employment in that space.
Okay.
So with that, thank you so much for hosting.
Honorable Imanga, your concluding remarks. I know you'll be debating the address this week.
Thank you, Paulson. My concluding remarks is that the President has set the tone for the conversation around agriculture. let us amplify what he has said. And it's a call to action to community leaders, local leaders, the chiefs, in the various jurisdictions, and to all of us to take responsibility for our environment.
All right, John Kangombe, thank you so much for finding time to be with us, and Honorable Imenga, thank you so much. I'd like to say I appreciate for waking up early and be part and parcel of this post-analysis of the presidential address.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're done for today. We were looking at environmental sustainability from what the President talked about regarding this sector. This has been the post-analysis of the presidential address during the official opening of the 5th session of the 13th Assembly. And I'd like to say thank you so much to our viewers and our listeners and those of you that were following us through on our socials. My name is Paul Sentindovi. Tomorrow we'll look at yet another interesting sector regarding what the President talked about in his address. Keep watching and listening to Parliament.